Simple yet impactful. Please make sure you label your pencils so we can keep track, and thank you so much. Jump in, Fishbowl family.
All right, Commish Radio Show back again for hour number 2. We are now restreaming as we promised to do. We are restreaming now. Legal Standpoint with Michael Todd. Michael Todd is, he's like been following me around from one radio show to another, man, you know, over at KHVN and now over here at the Fishbowl Radio Network. And I am hoping to see this restream showing up on my page here. That way my folks can get a hold of what's going on as well. So can you identify and let me know whether or not that's happening? It should show now? All right, so that being said, I will go ahead and kick it off to Legal Standpoint with Michael Todd. Michael Todd, what's going on?
Doing
man?
Good. Ed, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right.
You know what? Right. I was taking a little issue when you said I was following you from station to station. I thought we were coming together.
Man, we are coming together, man. We're together, but the country's not together, you know. But, you know, everybody can't decide whether or not to mask up.
Isn't it crazy? You know, simple stuff like, hey, just put on a mask
and everything.
You know,
like
take a
that.
shot. You know, those things that will keep the nation as a whole open and safe. And it's like a political issue over everything.
Right.
You know, I can't.
Right.
I would never have imagined that the United States would be caught up in such pettiness.
Yeah, I would never imagine that as well. That being said, we are very honored to have. You bring a guest as well, and before we bring that guest here, I want us to go do a couple of drops. I know you got the Gail Lamb Todd drop, so we always have to play that first as well. So let's go ahead and play that, okay?
Ladies, I'm excited to tell you about
Mike's
a new
muted.
resource that features universal life advice. Ladies Life Guide is here for women who are working to reach all their life goals while continuing to find their own strength and voice. Log on to ladieslifeguide.com for inspirational articles and to follow all social media outlets for weekly posts full of value and insight. Also, check out the boutique featuring LLG positive quotes on fun clothing for the entire family, fabulous everyday accessories, and lovely home goods to own with positive pride. Stay tuned for the upcoming premiere of the Ladies Life Guide weekly podcast produced by our own Fishbowl team.
We are so excited to announce that Andrews Jones Productions has a new TV series coming out called Blocked. Blocked is a suspenseful drama surrounding a young lady named April who is at war with herself, and with a cold heart, she shatters anyone who tries to mend any brokenness from her past. Life itself has dragged her to hell and back.
Saturday, August 28th, 4 p.m. sharp, Studio 80 in Fort Worth.
Well, we always have to play and pay the sponsors, man. So, Legal Standpoint, Michael Todd, man. Who you bring with you, man?
No, I brought Mark Tolliver today, firearm instructor, an individual that I've known for years, man. He used to be a bailiff or a deputy with the Dallas County Sheriff's Department, and he's been doing firearm instruction. And today, we're talking about the topic with respect to armed and ready. As everyone will know, or you should know, the Texas legislature passed a constitutional carry law that's going to be effective September 1st. And today's the 21st, so that's about 10 days. So we wanted to talk about that, what the requirements of it are, what the obligations, if any, are. And then, of course, we're going to talk about some of the historical perspective of black gun ownership with respect to Americans. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good, man, and I appreciate having the opportunity to be on the #1 ranked legal podcast in America. So I appreciate you brothers having me.
Oh, no problem at all.
You look familiar, man.
I'm almost famous, Ed. I'm not famous.
Wait,
I'm
hold
almost
on,
famous.
man. Wait a minute. You look like that little dude that was in school with me at William Brown. Did you go to William Brown Middle, man?
Yeah, I did, man.
Man.
Way back in the 60s.
Man,
Well, no, it wasn't the 60s, the 70s. I'm sorry.
So we have a connection.
Yeah,
here.
we got a connection.
Everybody's from Oak Cliff.
Everybody from Oak Cliff.
Oak Cliff. All right.
Yeah.
That's one thing we've always prided ourselves on, Mark Tolliver, is that we were brothers from the hood, but we knew what we were talking
That's
about.
right. You ain't just like some
Oak
brothers.
Cliff, Texas. You're right.
Oak Cliff, Texas,
Oak
man.
Cliff, Texas.
So you beefed all up, man. Got firearms instructor and all that on there, man. You just walking around carrying that around like that. I ain't gonna ask you, are you packing, man?
No, I'm not. I'm not. But this is how I promote the business. This is how I let people know what it is that I do.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great.
So what is it that you do, man?
Well, I'm a firearms instructor.
Okay, I see that on the shirt.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, and I
mean,
basically,
being from Oak Cliff, you gotta be transparent with me.
yeah,
man.
basically, I specialize in teaching people how to shoot.
Okay.
So one of the caveats to that is you get your license to carry, your LTC. Now, I know Mike just alluded to the fact that they just passed a bill that is permitless carry, but in my opinion, I think it's just important that everybody get that training so they understand the laws that govern unlawful carry and lawful carry, because that didn't change. So I think it's important that people know that, but more importantly, that people know how to shoot. Mm-hmm. They know how to shoot with accuracy. They know how to shoot with confidence.
All right. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is I want to make sure that everybody understand what we're going to do, how the framework is going to go on. I understand Drew Hawkins he says, how do I get my questions on? How do you get the questions on? Drew can call in. The telephone number is 214, go ahead, we hit 556.
556-6239.
6239. Seems like everybody in Miss Lee's first grade class is going to be on the air here. Drew Hawkins.
Hey, Mister, all people from Miss Lee's class,
everybody
raise your hand.
Shout out to those people in Miss Lee's class.
Now, you know what, Ed? Now, I'm going to tell you this. I came into contact, I've known Tolliver for years, and the way that I got...
what we're going to do? Y'all been vaccinated and all that?
Oh,
man?
yeah.
You been vaccinated?
Absolutely.
I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do this live on the air, man, because I want everyone to see Mr. Tolliver's firearm instructor. Move over here next to me, man. Yeah. Move it. Yeah. We just gonna change that because we got this beautiful stadium back here and everybody can see the stadium. Then you come on over here, Mike. We're gonna be right here. Yeah. So these lights can hit us just right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's what we call improvise.
Improvise.
This is streaming on your Facebook page, Mike?
Yeah, it's streaming now. Yeah, go ahead and share it, man. We're doing this live here. Okay, you got it now?
All right.
Yeah. So hit these lights right, man. They put the lights on us, man. We black. Melanin. That's it. All right. We of darker hue. So, speaking of that, man, talk to me, man. What's the deal, man?
Well, the thing is this. I came into contact with Tolliver because, like last year. And I'm going to be honest, man. I've gone my whole life until last year, and I had only fired a gun one time in my life.
Wait a minute.
That was about 18 years ago. Wait a minute.
Mike, how many guns you got, man?
Well, don't worry about that.
Hey, that's the question. That's the question.
Hey, but look here.
Hey,
but firing all these guns and everything, there's a historical concept here that I talked about during hour number 1 that normally black people wasn't allowed to carry guns, man.
Well, that's true. And, it all started from, of course, slavery because, of course, no one wanted black folks to be able to be armed. They didn't want the slaves to be armed because, of course, that could lead to rebellion, individuals trying to protect themselves. So we had laws that were passed as far back as 1840. And in 1840, the law would basically say that there is a complete ban that slaves cannot purchase, they cannot possess, they can't have any type of firearm at all. And so that was a feeling that they would say that black folks didn't know how to be able to responsibly have guns. And of course, they didn't want them to revolt. Over time, that whole message or that whole rationale has permeated through the ages. We look at back in 1866. That's 1866 is the year after the Civil War was over with. The Emancipation Proclamation had already been promulgated, had been issued. And even then, laws were passed, what we call in 1866, called black codes. And when I say laws were passed, I'm talking about here in the state of Texas. In state of Texas in 1840, they said slaves can't have it. In 1866, after the Civil War, they then said that no person could have a weapon without the permission of the property owner on any plantation or land. So if a black person who was supposed to be free now would go and have a gun, he would have to go ask old massa, was it okay for him to be able to bring that gun on the land?
Turn the sound up.
So from that standpoint, it was a situation where blacks still were not able to have guns. They passed these black codes, and they would have a lot of different angles, because you had people in 1866 that were free now, but they were saying you couldn't carry it on properties of others. So what they started to do after 1868, of course, we had then the 14th Amendment, where all blacks were considered to be citizens. So if we're citizens and if the Constitution applies to us, the Second Amendment would also apply to us. So how are we going to get around that? And what happened then is that we started passing laws that basically started taxing the purchase of weapons at a high amount, specifically for black folks.
Oh, just for black, it's a black tax.
Well, the thing is this, it was a black tax because it was only being levied against black folks.
Yep, black
You
tax.
follow? Because who had the discretion to determine who was going to who had to pay this tax or not? The county officials that were in power. You know, there was a case out of Florida. And in that particular case out of Florida, it was really just, they had a situation where a person had to be able to either pay a tax or get permission from the county official to see whether they would be permitted to carry a weapon. You follow what I'm saying? Well, this went to court, and the judge made this finding out of Florida. And this is something that's prevalent on all of these states. Because you know what? When they get one little thing in one state, the rationale and what they're trying to do, it permeates through what they're trying to do in other states. Now, where does that sound familiar, Ed? I mean, we've been talking about something.
Voting rights.
Oh, that sounds like voting rights.
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah, they do.
It's like they call each other. It's like,
Yeah.
So like instead of like, girl, what you wearing? It's like, governor, what you doing?
Yeah, what you doing?
Yeah.
Right. So in this particular, in Florida, and this was a case back in 1941, and it said that the original act was passed when there were a great influx of Negro laborers in the state.
In Florida.
Who were down there to work. They said that same condition, meaning an influx of Negroes, was present when the law was amended in 1901. And it was passed for the purpose of disarming Negro laborers and therefore reduce the unlawful homicides that were prevalent in the camps, and to give the white citizens in sparsely settled areas a better feeling of security.
So it's saying you Negroes were getting out of control, like you in the hood, like ganging up and stuff like that, like they saying like now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so they passed these laws where they're saying, hey, look, a certain person in the county have to give you permission, which is something that's prevalent like in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Washington, D.C. Now, and you know what? I'm going to tell you, I went to law school in 1983 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And I was talking to one of my friends there that was from Washington, and he told me back in 1983, we'd start talking about guns or whatever, and he says, hey man, it's against the law to have a handgun at your house in Washington, D.C.
What?
And I was like, man, what, get out of here. How could you not have a handgun at your house? It was against the law. So you had all those black folks in D.C. in the 80s who weren't even able to have a handgun at their own house. Legally.
They got them.
Right. Yeah.
I want to send a
legally.
shout out to my kin folks in Washington, D.C., Southeast, stand up, baby.
Right.
Anacostia Heights, all right, love
Right. So what happened, they start passing these laws. In Texas, we passed a law in 1907 that, like I said, it outlawed what they called a Saturday night special, taxing them. Because what would happen is that these guns, what they call a Saturday night special, was a weapon that you could purchase, and it didn't cost that much. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to tax those at a very high rate, 50%, things of that nature. And you got to remember, we're talking about 1907. You know, somebody paid $3 for a gun and then have to pay another $1.50 or $2. I mean, that was cost prohibitive back then. So that kept black folks from having guns. You follow what I'm saying? Now, people will say, well, why, the black folks, we always kind of tend to say, why we need a gun anyway, man? Somebody just going to get shot and somebody going to get hurt and things of that nature.
I'll follow. Why do we need a gun?
Well, let's look at it historically. This is what was happening. You have, throughout the South, individuals who were during this whole era that I'm talking about, people are trying to become franchised, meaning they're trying to become able to vote. And you had situations where individuals were trying to keep them from voting. They would keep people from having weapons, and then a person would say, I'm going to register to vote. And then later on that night, just for trying to register, folks would come by and shoot him on his porch and kill him.
So you need a gun for sure.
Right, so you needed a gun for self-protection. So we've said this before, and Frederick Douglass has said that our rights were based upon three things. He said they were based on the ballot box, meaning the right to vote. He said they were based upon the jury box, meaning people being able to go to court and receive justice. And they were also based upon the bullet box to protect those other rights and ensure that they are not infringed upon or people are imposing and terrorizing individuals not to utilize those.
The ballot?
The ballot, you have a right to vote.
Right.
The jury box, you have a right to receive justice in court in an orderly fashion. And if all else fails, you should have a right to defend yourself with respect to your rights. And you know what? My father's name was Frederick Douglass. My brother was named Frederick Douglass. So, when my grandparents named my father Frederick Douglass, I had to think that it was some important reason that they felt this man had wisdom. And as I read some of his teachings, and specifically this point, I'm like, man, Frederick Douglass was right on point. We need to do some more reading historically. Because the thing is this, the things that are happening today, this is not new. Back in the day, they were trying to say black folks were it was fraudulent voting, just like we're hearing today.
Right.
So so we have to understand the historical context with respect to this. And let me ask Tolliver a question here.
Okay.
As it relates to being a firearm instructor, do you think that maybe this historical drumbeat of, hey, guns are bad, black folks shouldn't have guns, do you think that builds to any hesitancy of people, specifically black folks, having weapons?
Not necessarily. I think the biggest problem with black people and firearms are understanding the laws that govern firearms.
Okay.
So a lot of people think that if I have a firearm and I get caught with it, that I'm gonna have a problem with the police.
Okay.
So that's why when we start talking about constitutional carry, and like you say, the Second Amendment says that you can have a firearm in your home, in your car.
Right.
But now it's saying with this new bill, you can have it outside of your home and outside of your car. So now we're talking about personal protection, walking around on the street. So I think that it's just a lack of education as it pertains to firearm ownership, where you can carry and where you can't carry.
Okay, and that's what we're here for today, to give some education. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that education does what? It eradicates ignorance. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And so if we have people who think that just by having a gun that I'm gonna have a problem with the police. I mean, what are they basing that on? You don't think it's some kind of historical, hey, black man with gun and now we got a problem?
Well, yeah, cite Mark Hughes, 2000.
Oh, right, yeah, Mark Hughes at the protest they had, the Black Lives Matter.
Right, gun. Someone else shoots a gun. He has a gun. He says, "Wait a minute." His brother Corey says, "Wait a minute." They're gonna think you shot it, so give up your gun. He willingly gave up his gun. It took him about 2 years to get it back too.
And you know what? And let me tell you this: when I talked to some black folks after that, right? You know what the question I kept hearing? Why would he take a gun to a protest? Even though in Texas,
he can do that.
You can walk around with a long gun all day long. All day. It is no violation of the law to walk around. I can walk up and down my street if I wanted to.
They've done it right there on College Street.
Right. I mean, you can do that. And so, but the backlash with that same example that you just gave was tremendous. That I heard that people were like, well, why would he do that? The police, rousting him. He called, he brought it on himself.
Which is the same reason why I was saying earlier, and then we'll take a quick break. We're coming up on 4:28. Break starts at 4:30. Which is the same thing I said about how we were going to go ahead and do the advertisement for it. Armed in black. Armed
right.
and ready.
Right.
Because either or, people will look at that and they see black folk, they see armed, and then they get
apprehensive, scared, things of that nature.
Including myself, Mike.
You?
I was scared, man.
You get scared when you see a black person with a gun?
No, I was gonna put that because Facebook, they'll start putting you out there and put you on Facebook jail and all that kind of stuff.
Well, see, you know what? See, I didn't know that was your concern when we talked about
and that's
that.
the very reason why I put it out there.
Okay.
Because they ain't scared. Because they ain't scared. But that's the problem that we have all across America is that so many people are scared because they don't know the law.
Right.
And then the other portion about that is once you know the law, it's not applied equally.
Well, that's true, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem.
Because I brought Mark Hughes to SMU with me when I heard that the mayor was going to be there, and I said we need to be there front seat and address this issue of when you're going to get your gun back. Mm-hmm. Because the city of Dallas hadn't gave him his gun back at that point.
And he hadn't done anything wrong?
He hadn't done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong?
Nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong. You didn't shoot anybody?
Didn't shoot nobody.
Nobody charged him with a violation of the law?
No.
So he just walking with his gun like everybody else does. Do you remember when they had these militias that were going around and they were going to these mosques? And they were marching up and down the sidewalks in front of the mosques.
Till they went to South Dallas.
Right, till they went to South Dallas. Because then the brother Muslims over there, they were ready for it.
They said, well, we're going to go over and mess with the Muslims, and they're not going to do a damn thing about it. And they said, well, someone said, you didn't tell us they were the Nation of Islam.
Can I ask the question right quick?
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, so Mike, you started off by saying you've been living for all of your life. I know you're only 25, but
right.
But you've never carried a gun,
right,
or a firearm. Why all of a sudden you decided that you needed a firearm?
You know why? Because the climate that 45 was causing in this country.
Oh, you mean to tell me that
was the main reason. I felt that it was getting to the point where people were just out of pocket, and I didn't know what was going on. That was one thing. The second thing was this. As an attorney, I travel around to counties all over here, all over through the state of Texas.
I would have been packing already.
And when I travel to these counties, people treat me nice. The judges are nice. The folks are there. But of course I'm suit and tie down, and I'm driving, my car and all that kind of stuff. So people treat me real nice. And during the same time last year that I'm thinking, hey man, I don't like the way things are going, I'm sitting around and I see a courthouse that I've gone to numerous times. And they had 50 Black Lives Matter people who were down in this county. And this county turned out 500 people with Trump flags, Confederate flags, and loaded to the gill with respect to these people.
And when we come back, we'll see how you got out of that, man. All right, let's play a couple of drops and we'll be right back.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. That's right. They can help save lives by simply washing their hands. Just 20 seconds of thorough hand washing after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside can help fight against the dastardly spread of germs. Armed with only soap and water and hands, your superhero can protect you, your family, and everyone out there in America land. Amazing! Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Stevie B with the Am I Worth the Time show, host of the year 2020. Want to encourage you to keep it locked right here at Fishbowl Radio Network. Y'all be safe, you hear?
All right, so when we before we went to our commercial break, how'd you get out of this, Mike?
Well, the thing is this. I wasn't in a situation, but what I was
Hold on, wait a minute. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives, I wasn't at the protest. I'm saying
Sound like
that,
you were to me, man.
No, I said I saw
You was just
a
working.
county.
But
You were just down there
hold
working.
on.
No.
Mike, are you black?
Yeah, I'm black.
Okay, were you at the protest?
No, I wasn't.
But you was at the protest.
No, I was not at the
saw
protest.
it on television?
I saw it on I saw
Oh, you
films
saw
of
it
it.
on- okay,
I saw a
okay,
film
okay,
of it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought you was down
No,
there.
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is that I saw the video of this county where I have been numerous times where they had 500 people sitting there with guns. They had AR-15s. They even had a 50 caliber rifle loaded up on the back of a truck.
Yeah.
And they went over and started punching some of the Black Lives Matter people. Right? So I'm sitting here looking at this situation. I'm like, man, I go there all the time.
And so if you was like practicing a case that time around, they wouldn't ask you, they wouldn't be nice to you then.
They probably would. I'm sure the judge and the people in the courthouse would have been, but the people outside, they were saying
There
some
could be
pretty
some
harsh
nice
things.
racists.
Yeah.
Most racists are very nice.
So it just made me at that point think to myself, I need to be able
Well, I'm
to
glad you
defend
figured
myself
it.
if something happens
I'm
like
glad
that.
you figured it.
So now, a lot of people say, okay, Mike, that was last year. People were protesting. Things have calmed down now.
It's down.
Biden's in office. Trump's,
And you guys have Juneteenth as a holiday?
yeah, you got Juneteenth and all
I said,
that.
notice I said you guys.
Right. So, but the thing is this. I want to point people to this.
Yep.
Just this past week, on August the 13th, 2021, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Now, you know who the Homeland Security is there?
Yeah.
Who's Homeland Security?
They the people who run everything about protecting the homeland and everything.
Right, right.
They basically do anything they really want to do.
Right. So, they
They're
came
like
in
the
after 9/11.
FBI on steroids.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, every now and then, the Department of Homeland Security, they issue a bulletin. And they'll say, hey, look, there are certain dangers that are lurking around in our country. We need to be mindful of that. And on August the 13th of 2021, they issued this bulletin. And this bulletin says, the homeland continues to face a diverse and challenging threat leading up to and following the 20th anniversary of September 11th. Attacks as well as religious holidays. We a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. It goes on to then say through the remainder of 2021. Now, this is important. Through the remainder of 2021, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and anti-government and anti-authority violent extremists will remain a national threat priority for the United States. It says historically, mass casualty, domestic violent extremist attacks linked to these racially motivated people have targeted houses of worship and crowded commercial facilities. Just on August the 13th, the Department of Homeland Security is telling us, folks, it's danger lurking out here. And just this past week, what did we see in Washington, D.C.? A man pulled up at the Capitol, said that he had a bomb in his car, and basically shut down the whole Capitol, talking about Trump should be reinstalled and that Biden should be out and all of this type of stuff. So I think now is a time, and I'm not advocating we going to grab your gun and we going to go try to start anything, but I think people need to be in a position to defend themselves if anything occurs.
So, y'all, we pride ourselves on being from Oak Cliff.
Go ahead.
Correct.
Right.
Straight in
So,
there.
growing up in the neighborhood, all your life, you never needed to have an opportunity where you felt like you needed a firearm for personal protection or public safety. And now, with 45 in office, now you feel that way.
Yeah, that's what, that's one of the questions.
What I felt was that the tenor of the country was changing, and that a lot of people, and it didn't just start with 45, it started with the backlash with 44. So when 44, Barack Obama came in, and you know what, and I've had judges who were not black, who have spoke to me since Obama was in office, and you know what they told me? I didn't know that white folks was this racist, and they were white, telling me that. Because what happened is that when Obama came in, the floodgates just opened. If you remember, within a week of him being elected, that's when the Tea Party started, talking about we got to take our country back. Well, where did it go? Where it go? Nothing had happened. So that was what led me to become involved in firearms. And I'm going to tell you what, and the thing is, my wife and I, we got with Mark Tolliver. That's why Mark is here today.
Wearing that shirt. Yeah.
Right. We got with Mark Tolliver. And the first thing that we did is that we took a class with Tolliver on gun safety.
So this
young man right here.
Okay. All right.
And it was a thorough class. It was about a 3.5 hour class where he explained how guns operate. He showed us the safety rules. Everything that was dealing with firearms, so we would feel more comfortable with being able to handle them.
So you didn't know anything about guns till that happened?
I had only shot a gun one time in my life, and that was 18 years before. Last year.
There's a question in the queue right here. It's from Houston, Texas, and it states, why you purchase multiple firearms? Why would a person want to purchase multiple firearms?
Well, once you get involved with guns, each gun has a different purpose. You want to have your pocket pistol in case something goes down and it's a close range situation. If I'm going out and I'm trying to hunt a hog, I need something that's going to be a little more long range. If it's something that I'm going to try to hit 2 or 3 different things, I might need my shotgun. So it just depends on the situation.
And I think what Mike is kind of alluding to is, firearms and shooting firearms is a skill. And once you start shooting, you kind of want to see, okay, now this is how a handgun feels. Let me see how a shotgun feels. Let me see how AR-15 feels. Let me see what my accuracy is like with these different types of firearms. It's basically a skill. If you look at it more so not as I might have to shoot somebody, but I need to develop this skill, then you start seeing firearms differently.
All right, now we understand that you've been doing this for quite some time. How did you get involved in this? I understand you was also a track star as well. Is that true?
I mean, I used to make the crowd move.
I understand.
Back in the day.
So you decided to transition from making a crowd move. You wasn't going to decide to run from anything. You was going to make other people decide to make another adjustment.
Yeah, well, after I left Roosevelt, I accepted a scholarship to Kansas State. Went up there, played ball for 3 years, broke my foot. Right. That pretty much ended my career. I came home and I began my career with the Sheriff's Department. I was with the Sheriff's Department for 16 years. I was an instructor at the Academy for 14 of those 16 years. So everything I learned at the Academy, I just parlayed that into a business. Mm-hmm. I also do criminal defense investigation. I work some cases with Mike. So that's why when Mike say he just started feeling like he need to get a firearm for protection, Mike did work with some guys that were accused of everything.
Right, so he needs that protection. That's what I say. Why
so 45? He sees crime.
He should have already had this.
Well, but it's a certain confidence that we have as men.
Because
black
we're from
men. You know, we know situational awareness.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We know we ain't gonna stop at the corner, get some gas at 12:30 at night, and it's 5 dudes standing out there.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Mama always told us, come in before dark, don't get in the car with them people, don't be over there. You know, we always, that situational awareness. You know, so it's just a situation like when Mike told me he had bought a gun, because we were driving on Cocker Hill, and I pulled up to speak to him, and then he drove off. So I called him. And he said, man, I thought that was you. And he told me he had just purchased a firearm. I told him what I was doing. And he said, man, you know what? I do need to get some education on it. So once I showed him all the safety aspects, how to break it down, the operations of a firearm, he just felt more comfortable with it. Then when we went to shoot, because we went to the range like 4 or 5 times before he actually took the class to get his certification. And so he learned how to shoot first.
And not only that, my wife also went and she learned to shoot, and she loved working with Todd.
Now, when you guys go to these, go to the range and everything, my mom and dad used to be members of the NRA as well. My father used to make bullets, believe it or not. Okay. I mean, he literally used to make bullets,
Right.
So, are there a lot of women that go to these?
There are a lot of women.
Yeah,
a lot of women.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you see how I worked that all in about your past, and then brought that into what you did on that.
Yeah. Because I taught my wife how to shoot and both my daughters.
All right.
The problem that I'm seeing at the range is the people aren't shooting properly.
They just shoot.
And they taking pictures for the gram.
Right.
So they're not shooting in with accuracy. When you shoot, your bullet shouldn't be speckled all over the place. They should be center mass, and that comes with the 5 fundamentals of shooting. So once you learn how to shoot, then you learn how to shoot with accuracy, and then you start working on marksmanship.
All right.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I said, once I started with one, and I've got other firearms now that I enjoy, and I enjoy going out and shooting them. I shoot them for different purposes. And when I practice with them, you practice for different purposes, different distances and things of that nature. Some you shoot at 100, 150 yards. Some you shoot at 15 yards. It's just, but it is something that it turned out that I enjoy doing. So That's one thing.
Now, one of the other things you enjoy doing is talking to us about the law.
Right.
But talk about what is constitutional carry? What is it?
Okay, so basically what's happened is this. In the past, if you had a gun other than at your house or in your car, then you couldn't walk around with it unless you had a license, right? Which was a license to carry. To get that license to carry, you had to take a class, you had to go through some training, you had to pass a test, go through a background check. Now, what has happened is that the state of Texas has now passed constitutional carry, which basically says that anybody can carry a gun as long as they meet the requirements. Now, listen to me, folks. This does not mean that everybody can just go grab a gun and start rolling around. The first thing is this: you have to be at least 21 years of age. If you're not 21 years of age, you are not protected by constitutional carry. Remember that. The second thing, you cannot be a person that's prohibited from having a gun. So don't think that all of a sudden that you couldn't get a gun in the past and now you can. Now, what are the things that prohibit you from having a gun? You can't be convicted of a felony offense. When I say convicted, I mean you can't have straight probation or you couldn't have gone to the penitentiary for a felony. If it is a misdemeanor, that's something different, depending on the offense. If you're on deferred adjudication, that's not a conviction. However, if you're on deferred, it's generally a condition of your probation that you not have a gun. So don't think you can carry one either. If you're a fugitive from justice, meaning that you have charges against you and you running, you're not supposed to have a gun. This is the one that really gets people. You cannot have been convicted of domestic violence. And when I say convicted of domestic violence, I mean any grade of domestic violence. If you and your wife or your girlfriend or your brother got into a fight,
or your husband,
husband,
okay.
Right? If you all got into a fight and the police came out and gave you a ticket, and you went down there and just paid the ticket and entered a plea of guilty, you have most likely pled to domestic violence. And that will keep you from having a gun for the rest of your life. So that's why it's always important not to do anything in any legal proceeding without contacting an attorney. Now, those are just some of the things. You can't be an alien, a person that's in the country without authorization. You can't have a gun in those instances. And there are other things. You can't be an incompetent. Things of that nature.
Okay, what is incompetent? What is that?
A person that has been found to be incompetent, meaning they don't have competency, where they don't know what they're doing. They can't make valued judgments and decisions. All right? So those are the things right there that if you fall within those parameters, you can't say, hey, look, constitutional carry, I can carry this gun now. All right?
And we also have a question as well, too.
Okay.
Okay, a question comes from Mr. Drew Hawkins, who says, what happens if you do have a firearm and you're pulled over and arrested for a crime? Does the fact you have a firearm increase the crime?
All right, this is the thing.
Then we'll go back to your constitutional carry.
Generally, if a person has a firearm in their car, you are fine. You can have a firearm in your car as long as you are not committing a criminal offense at that time. If you sitting up and you got weed in your car and a gun, that's a problem. You can be charged with UCW. If you drunk and driving intoxicated, that's a problem. Any offense other than a traffic violation will negate your right to have the gun with you. So if you're going to drive around with a gun in the car, then you have to be able to not be intoxicated. Now, there are a few changes that have gone in with respect to this constitutional carry, as far as being intoxicated. And, that's a little more detailed, and that's a little bit above where we are right now. But as a general rule, if you got your gun in your car, then you need to be, as the young folks would say, on the 100, not violating the law.
Now, let me also add this. That firearm needs to be holstered.
Correct.
It can't be in plain view.
It can't be in plain view.
And also, if a police officer stops you, I don't care if he stops you for your back license plate light is out. He's going to ask you, do you have a firearm? If he asks you, do you have a firearm, you have to tell him yes. If you tell him yes and you don't have a permit to carry, if you have a permit to carry, you just give him both your license and your permit to carry. That basically de-escalates that situation. If he finds out that you have a firearm in your car, he's going to ask you to step out that car. And once he asks you to step out that car, he's going to search that car.
Okay.
Right.
Now, you know what, Mike? We're going to have you come back on the series.
Yeah, because it's a lot of stuff as it relates to this constitution.
Can you come back next week?
Well, I probably could.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it in series, because you have I feel like I'm in the middle of a conversation, man. It's like when someone cuts you short and go, hey, I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Because this is too much of a very valuable subject, and we can make this leading up to September 1st, because we have another week before September 1st, right?
Right. Now, what is next Sunday? Next Saturday.
It's August 27th, 28th.
Well, which one is it?
I mean, whatever one it is, we got another one before September.
Well, did you know what? But the 28th is my wife's birthday.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so, I just want to make sure that I'm not getting in the doghouse by telling you that.
Because you know what? If I'm not mistaken, didn't you train her?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? And I'm going to tell you this. To pass the test, you had to score 175.
And what she scored?
A perfect score was 250. To be an armed bodyguard, you had to score 230. And my wife, Gail Lamb Todd, scored a 235.
All right. So we're going to check back next week.
Yeah, we're going to check back with her.
That's part of
We're going to check back next week, and we're going to go to a close because we're coming up on that 450 mark.
All my students shoot over 90%.
And we got to make sure that he's able to come back, you're able to come back before Gail Lamb Todd is able to come back as well.
Mark, why don't you give them your contact information?
Okay, you can contact us at knowhowtoshoot.com. That's NOWHOW, number 2, blocked.com.
All right.
All right. And I'm giving a personal verification that his training is excellent.
All right. We'll see you guys back next week. Take care.
Appreciate y'all.
Commish Radio Show.
Hey, how you doing? This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned and tune in and be up to speed.